appreciated. I'm going to speak briefly as possible. I'm going to give some background to what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing from here, the recent developments, and also included some legislation that was passed this morning in the Senate, state police, or state government, excuse me. The North Carolina Police Benevolent Association has several announcements today in connection with several important ongoing matters involving the city of Fayetteville Police Department and Fayetteville Police Officers. So today we're announcing the following. One, we are requesting the complete criminal investigation of the false police report filed against Officer Eddie Ketchum, including all who have aided and abetted in that false complaint to be investigated. Two, we are assigning the matter involving the false complaint to the PBA legal counsel for an investigation into actions against Officer Ketchum and the possible filing of civil and civil rights actions against those responsible and liable for this misconduct. Three, our opposition to Senate Bill 939, which is a local legislative bill seeking to harass police officers, and I will explain that further because I don't think it was supposed to be that way, but in light of the foundation history of the people that requested it, it is nothing short of that. And four, we are going to request for more citizen and community leaders to assist us in protecting Fayetteville police officers. Morale is as low as I've ever known it. I've been working with Fayetteville officers since the late 80s. And we need our citizens to step up because these police officers are not only being prohibited from doing their job, they're being harassed personally and they're suffering in ways that I never considered that officers could suffer. And five, we are going to request that the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice investigate and prosecute those conspiring to injure and harm Fayetteville police officers under 18 U.S.C. 241 and 42 of the U.S. Code under Title 1983. This is an unusual move, but we are going to basically file a civil rights action for the civil rights violations of police officers. As you know, the Police Benevolent Association has been serving North Carolina, in North Carolina for over 25 years. And we have long had an active chapter in the Fayetteville area, which is known now as the St. Louis chapter, or our chapter president, Jared Rayhoff, who's a Fayettille police officer, who's the president in here. I'd also like to recognize Councilwoman Val Applewhite, who's here, who can express how an elected official can be when they support and honor the law and respect not only what the officers do out there, but finding the best means to protect her constituents and citizens of the officers who serve. In recent years, under the leadership of Chief Tom Bergemine, the Fayetteville Police Department has worked to strengthen and enhance its overall mission, and the department has been very successful. The Fayetteville Police Department has been re-accredited by the national agency that accredits law enforcement agencies. The evaluation process for the accreditation of law enforcement agencies is extremely extensive and involves analysis in many different areas of police operation and administration. It is a standard, national standard that is well respected and well known throughout the United States. Despite the long-term success of the Fayetteville Police Department, there have been very concerted efforts by a small number of people to obstruct and impede the successful mission of the Fayetteville Police Department. From the Fayetteville Police Department's successful mission, part of that mission has been the continued use of long-settled traditional police procedures to fight crime throughout Fayetteville. In recent years, crime around Fayetteville has exploded, as most people know, and has inflicted severe trauma on Fayetteville's law-abiding citizens. Citizens in all of Fayetteville's many neighborhoods have grown sick and tired of this dangerous escalation of crime, which has invaded their lives and properties in the worst kinds of ways, including but not limited to armed home invasions, armed robberies, felonious assaults inflicting serious injury, arson, burglaries, seemingly non-stop breaking and entering instances, and every form of aggravated homicide. The mass Fayetteville drug trade and organized gang activity has wreaked havoc throughout Fayetteville and has instigated all types of social problems which have severely impacted our schools, our churches, and every aspect of Fayetteville life. A considerable portion of this major crime fleet Fayetteville is driven by these Fayetteville drug lords. Street-level drug dealers, gang members, and other hoodlums prey on the narcotic trade, prey in the narcotics trade, and in and around Fayetteville. Many of those thugs are armed with the most dangerous kinds of high-powered weaponry. The drug dealers and drug runners are often out on the prowl around Fayetteville city streets and drive around to create the havoc that they are known to do. This has resulted in what has become the type of issues that Fayetteville City Police have done in hotspot policing by citizens calling them when they see these type of activities, wanting the officers to get involved. This, from my understanding, is what has led to these false allegations or this alleged race-based profile. Now, the worst nightmare for police officers is not anymore dealing with these kinds of thugs and trying to stay safe while keeping citizens safe and doing their job in accordance with all policy and procedure law. The worst nightmare for police officers now has been the collapsing support for the police department by the mayor and certain members of the Fayetteville City Council. This lack of support brings many additional dangers to the police officers, not to mention matters that I think we've got more problems than we should be happy to talk about these types of things that has occurred most recently. The consent search crisis that Fayetteville police officers have endured early this year is a glaring example of this lack of support and lack of respect for the Fayetteville police community. Despite the complete lack of any significant evidence at all or any history of the commission of racial profiling, certain people became consumed with an intent to fix a part of the police department that clearly was in need of no repair at all. Now, I think it's important to point out that despite the fact that the mayor and certain members of the town council were informed that they were obstructing justice, that they were actually engaged in unlawful activity, they refused to stop. They were told by many police organizations about this, including ours. They refused to stop. They were told by police management organizations, the Chiefs of Police Association of North Carolina, the North Carolina Sheriff's Association, arguably the most powerful lobbying group for law enforcement in the state, and certainly for sheriffs and police management. Their executive director and vice president actually has stated in a sworn statement as part of litigation now that he believes, that the association believes that these folks were involved in felony obstruction of justice. That still did not stop. I might also add that the Attorney General of North Carolina issued an opinion saying that it was an obstruction of justice. They still didn't stop. Now comes litigation, which we had to bring, which now a Superior Court judge has enjoined the City Council from that activity. So they have finally stopped it only through a court order, and quite frankly, they're still not obeying the court order as it is issued, but that is another matter as well. With that said, they now want to have legislation, and they want us to trust them, these folks that have been guilty of this obstruction of unlawful activity, to decide later, after this bill is passed, who they're going to put on the board to decide who they're going to give personnel files and personal information of police officers under investigation, even officers that are fully exonerated. To say that we don't trust this situation, I hope the mayor and these members of the council understand that we aren't, it's not like we're born under a rock, but I mean, it's just basic police common sense. Officers trained to investigate matters that this group before we even call included, that is not, they are not to be trusted in that regard. We will get into the basis of the law itself that is troubling in and of itself, but that aspect coupled with what's been going on in the city is not a strong foundation by which to move forward with this kind of board in this kind of way. I will say we're very happy to report while it passed, the bill did pass through the Senate as a bundle bill with other local bills. The local legislators, Senate and House members are aware of our concern. They were not aware of it earlier. They were told this was a unanimous decision by the council. And they have indicated to us that they are going to work with us, and want the city to work with us before any such legislation can be passed. We have that commitment. My friends in the General Assembly where we lobbied for over 20 years. We're confident that this bill will not pass unless we are involved, as we should have been in the first place to resolve. Moving right along, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives was brought to analyze and to perform a complete analysis of the allegations of the racial profiling, as everybody knows. When Noble exonerated the department on the central allegations, and some of the complainants and instigators simply did not want to accept the clear and obvious facts of the Fayetteville Police Department and not been guilty of responsibility guilty of or responsible for any racial profiling of any type. There's always room for improvement. No police department's perfect. I would venture a guess to say that this all could be such a positive interaction if laws are obeyed and respected, and if all the players are brought to the table, so real positive change could occur, especially for the citizens who deserve much better than what they receive today. Rather than considering constructive alternatives to forge a better working relationship with various segments of the community, some have continued with their mission of harassment, obstruction, interfering with, defaming, and otherwise harming the Fayetteville police community. A glaring example of this recent matter involves the completely false and fabricated allegation against veteran police officer whereby Officer Ketchum was falsely accused of making a horrible racial slur. However, the video camera captured the entire incident between the criminal suspect and Officer Ketchum, and the camera spoke the complete truth. That tape, which contains appropriate time-stamped references, clearly demonstrates that there was no racial slur of any nature articulated by Officer Ketchum. The most troubling part of this matter came when Officer Ketchum's accusers refused to retreat from their false and fabricated allegations, even after full public disclosure of the videotape, which completely exonerated Officer Ketchum. Let me add here at this time, if Senate Bill 939 had been in law as it is written now, even though Officer Ketchum has completely been exonerated, even the mayor said who filed a false complaint should be held accountable, but he seems to have backed off from that in some way that I'm not really understanding at this point. That law would have allowed, upon the demand of this committee, personnel files of Officer Ketchum, his information, where he lives, anything pertinent to that, anything in that file could be subject to release. In addition, the individual who has been declared as a blatant liar, quote unquote, by an official at the police department recently, would be entitled to Officer Ketchum's personal information. So the suspect, and any other suspect, any other officer arresting somebody, the person being arrested could have the officer's file and or their designated family member. That is not good legislation. That is not good law. Police officers are not better employees than other people, but they certainly do. And we have systems in place to protect them as much as possible, and this would be a blatant violation in that regard. A number of individuals have been acting in concert and conspiracy to carry out criminal and civil violations of law against Fayetteville police officers. We are absolutely convinced of that. The law also reaches those who are accomplices to the principal violators. So the law is there. The law hasn't changed. It seems to be the way people in power right now want to handle the law. And apparently, police officers in Fayetteville are being treated differently in a disparate manner to others who would be protected by the law. The Fayetteville Police Department and its officers need support from law-abiding citizens of Fayetteville, as I mentioned earlier, and we need that support now. This is a direct appeal to citizens to help us protect Fayetteville police officers. Fayetteville has to decide who is going to be targeted, the vast criminal network of hardened criminals, or the police officers who are sworn to protect the citizens. Lately, the target has been, of course, the police officers. In our request for a criminal investigation, we have submitted documentation to request a full criminal investigation of the persons responsible for creating, developing, filing, and disseminating the false police report filed by the Fayetteville Police Department filed with the Fayetteville Police Department against Officer Nick. NCGS 14-225 and other law make it a criminal offense to file a false police report. So this is nothing new. This has been around for a long time. It's just a matter of those in power will do their duty as required under their oath of office. This is an extremely serious matter which should be taken seriously by every responsible citizen in the Fayetteville community. Upon conclusion of the investigation, warrants should be issued for the arrest of all persons who have aided and abetted perpetration of the offense of creating and filing false police reports against Officer Ketchum. An environment has been created where false complaints against Fayetteville police officers has been a mission of certain individuals. Our request for a civil rights investigation. In addition to the foregoing request for a criminal investigation and possible prosecution, PBA has begun a full investigation of this matter with a view towards bringing these perpetrators to justice in Cumberland County Superior Court and U.S. Federal District Court for civil and civil rights litigation. The matter is now under investigation. When one examines the totality of actions against the Fayetteville Police Department and its officers in recent years, the only logical conclusion that can be drawn is that Fayetteville police officers are going to have to continue to work harder to survive and live in an environment which constitutes a cesspool of corruption and anti-police hatred. There has not been any civil judgments, verdicts, or other findings of any racial discrimination by police practices among Fayetteville police officers. There is no reason for anyone to try to punish Fayetteville police officers for conditions that do not exist. And it is unlawful to file these kinds of reports to police. Our association reaches out to the entire community and strongly urges you to support the men and women who serve the Fayetteville police community because they have earned your support. Senate Bill 939, I will just briefly touch on that because I've said many things about it. In brief, it does attempt to to overtly discriminate legislation to harass Fayetteville police officers. It's misleading op-ed pieces published in the Fayetteville Observer. We're looking into that as well because we find that to be outrageous, and I have never really quite seen anything like this. It's like one thing happens and then it's reported, and we're very disturbed about how that information is being disseminated. And we believe that it is used, whether intentional or not, as a target to law enforcement officers in Fayetteville. We're looking into the facilitating false complaints and dissemination of misleading data. We have grave concerns about this bill, which, as you know, is a local bill. The bill, as presented, has serious dangers for the several hundred members of the Fayetteville Police Department and their families. And I reiterate, these officers have families too. They are part of this community, and their families are suffering, and they have been brought into this in ways that I don't think they ever expected. This bill seeks to allow dissemination of the most confidential and personal information regarding employees and employment, safety, and the lives of Fayetteville police officers to a purported committee designed to review police activities. I will interject at this point to say that even at its best, this committee has problems because there is a case involving Winston-Salem's Citizen Review Board Silver Plant Forest case that was recently decided by the Court of Appeals. In that 3-0 decision by the court ruled in favor of the officers because the committee, which was to review a matter, was told and given direction by the City Council they couldn't disseminate information. Well, they did anyway. Even though these bills are said that you have to, you're restricted, people can't release this information. That is going to happen. It happens every time. This case exemplifies that. And not only did the city of Winston-Salem not bring sanctions against the committee for releasing the information, not only did they not shut the committee down for releasing the information, they ended up defending them in court against us because we were the only ones that took them to court to stop this thing from happening. It sounds familiar. It is because that's what we had to do here in Fayetteville. Again, they have to do in other matters with other separate litigation. I'll move along here. I've said all these other things. Just touching again on the federal civil rights investigation. Finally, all of these matters, especially when considered together, are extremely serious and necessitate a federal civil rights investigation. There are too many baseless and false attacks against Fayetteville police officers to ask anything less. We all need to get to the root of these attacks and find out who the perpetrators are. I think what we really need to, in thinking about this has to end at some point, and it's going to end with an officer being killed, or someone being hurt, or some serious situation occurring, because it cannot go on like this with people just disregarding the law and finding their own ways of trying to pander to certain individuals who have made a complaint that turns out to have no validity whatsoever. All of this anti-police retaliation cannot be done by a single person. Persons are acting together in concert to deprive Fayetteville police officers of their civil liberties. Fayetteville police officers enjoy civil rights and constitutional protections from these attacks. Police officers are intentionally injured and harassed by persons with a purpose being to shield criminals from the use of authorized police procedures. The result is a deprivation of federally protected civil rights of police officers. We are communicating with the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice this week. 18 U.S.C. 241 makes it a federal civil rights crime to conspire to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate any person in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege. This has been occurring in Fayetteville. In conclusion, Fayetteville police officers are not going to continue to tolerate the kind of abuses and discrimination perpetrated against them. The men and women of the Fayetteville Police Department will not sit in silence or be put in crosshairs by people who disrespect the law and have an organized effort to try to harm those officers and who refuse themselves to obey the law. With that said, I will be most happy to take any questions. Last month's decision. Yes. Before I answer any questions, Officer Jared Rayoff, who's the chapter president, would like to also say a couple of words about the chapter. You are? Okay. All right. Mr. Clement. All right. Any questions?
John, I got a question. The civil rights investigation you're asking the Justice Department for, I haven't heard any other communities or police departments being subject to this. Is this a first?
As far as I know, Greg, it is a first. It came to us as we as it was revealed to us the magnitude of what's going on. I would never, just before this started, I would never have thought such a thing would be ever really asked for. So I don't think we've ever had to hear. I don't know that I've ever.
Anywhere else in North Carolina?
No.
There hasn't been another police department anywhere subjected to this kind of angst, this kind of attack.
Do you think there's a concerted effort among some in this community to disparage Fayetteville police officers?
Yes.
Harass them?
Yes, and I think that there's a concerted effort to actually shut the department down. You know, you have to look at, follow the money, follow the evidence. I mean, there are people that would benefit from drug dealers continuing to be able to prey on citizens. We truly believe that there are people within this process that are trying to shut the officers down from stopping the criminal thugs that are creating the crime problems, including the drug dealers.
And there are other cities in North Carolina that have these citizen review boards, correct? Winston-Salem, you pointed out, others. Charlotte. So Fayetteville would be in line, the policy, the citizen review board would be in line with what already exists in North Carolina?
Well, possibly. I don't think Charlotte's review board allows people who have been arrested by that officer to have their personnel files. I don't think that occurs. And I'm not certain, and my understanding is that only, and this wasn't listed in the literature today at the General Assembly, but I think Greensboro has some. My question to the legislators was, they have civilian review boards, but they're not codified under 168-168. Now, they may be under the session law process, but I think that they restrict certain things from these review boards. because they do not have subpoena power. They do not have a rule of law process that provides due process for the officers so that they can get their side of the story and call witnesses.
What local legislators did you talk to? For example, the Cumberland County delegation.
Well, that would be two bill sponsors. I've talked to Senator Mansfield, but left word with Senator Wesley Meredith's office and talked to his legislative aide. And we've talked to Representative Rick Sanders, who is the head of the delegation for the legislature. Alligations.
Let me ask this question. This is pretty pointed, and unless it sounds like you know more or something else is going on that maybe some of us don't know, but are you pointing this that you said that there are people conspiring against the Fayetteville Police Department? I follow this case pretty well. And are you pointing your finger at Troy Williams and Alan Ron?
Well, we don't know who's pointing the finger. We're not pointing fingers at all.
You are.
No, well, let me finish your question. Let me say this. We are alleging that there are individuals that are involved in this. We believe a proper investigation should lay that out. Not from this podium, but from a proper investigation. I think, people can draw their own conclusions. I think there's plenty of evidence out there right now that there are individuals involved in this, and we believe that should be the way we have described this. And if that's true, I think a federal investigation and a criminal investigation, that matter, will prove that.
Well, let me just follow that, John. The two most vocal people in this city regarding racial profiling have been Troy Williams and Alan Rogers. And if there are more, then I will stand corrected. But so are you saying that they are part of this conspiracy?
What I'm saying is it is not for me to name names without a proper investigation. I'm not going to do what the mayor and the council members have done, and we would be certainly. It'd be certainly inappropriate for us to do what we have accused others of doing and think that they have handled this inappropriately. And I don't want to try this in an immediate process. What we will do is our investigations reveal that we have certain leanings toward who we believe are involved in this, and what we don't know how far that goes. We know that Mr. Simmons filed, according to the authorities, he filed a false report and declared as a false report to police. So they can start from there, and from that investigation, they would have, I think they have ample leads, if you will, to find out who or how many people could be involved in the conspiracy.
You think that there are those behind who were trying to stir, who did not accept the note report, and which the FPD, according to me, which I went to recently, they pretty much, there were about 28 things they wanted them to address and improve on, and they did 27 or 28, I think, Councilwoman, which, so they were, attempting to be compliant there. But how many people do you think might be in this conspiracy?
We don't know.
More than two. More than that. We don't know how many. I'll tell you the truth, Bill. I think you're looking at John Doe 1 through whatever. We do know that the report was false. We really don't know if Mr. Simmons actually wrote his own complaint. We have gotten some leads as to, the public has heard information of how some of that information got to the department. But how it actually happened is the purpose of a proper and thorough federal and other criminal investigation. And we believe that the experts that would do that, because they don't just owe it to us as far as we're concerned, they owe it to the city of Fayetteville, they owe it to the city council, they owe it to everybody involved in this to know what the truth is, so that we can finally find out what's going on here and why. I think that's the way to start to heal this, is to bring this under control. And in the first place, is obviously some laws have been violated, and that needs to stop. And so far, we've tried every way we know how. I don't think this should have to be litigated through court, but right now that's where it is because the other side has refused to cooperate.
And I understand, there has not been an investigation launched yet. You have simply put in a request.
We put in a request for a criminal investigation, and we are going to this week file a federal complaint
Say again, John, you gonna file what this week?
Sir?
Say again.
We're going to request a federal investigation, civil rights complaint through the federal department.
That's the Justice Department, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you said you're gonna file a complaint?
We're gonna file a complaint with the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice to come in and conduct an investigation into these issues on behalf of the Fayetteville Police Department. The complaint is to be issued to the Criminal Division of the U.S. Department of Justice by the Police Benevolent Association.
So it's a criminal investigation that you're asking for?
Both. Yeah, the criminal investigation can be conducted by the Cumberland County District Attorney and anybody he directs through the police department can do that. And the civil rights and the civil complaint, a civil and/or civil rights complaint will be done by us through the Federal Department of Justice. So it's a twofold process.
So if I understand you right, if, as written now, that Senate bill that you guys are, if I get arrested, if this were in law now, if I get arrested, I can get, what information can I get about that cop or that police officer?
Well,
I can get his like, you know, like social security number, address, any of that?
well, it doesn't specify in the bill that that could be gotten, but it does say access to the officer's personnel file. And not only if the, say you lodge a legitimate complaint against a police officer, and it comes out that the department has sustained a complaint that you can get the file. Say you file a false report like Mr. Simmons filed. Mr. Simmons can get, even if the officer is completely exonerated, he still gets the same information.
John, it does state it in the analysis here. Senate Bill 939 authorizes the Fayetteville City Manager or the Chief of Police to release the disposition of disciplinary charges against police officers, as well as the facts relied upon in determining the disposition to the Citizen Complaint Review Board. That's inclusive of all the personnel files released to them. This information may also be released to the person alleged to have been aggrieved by the officer's actions or to that person's survivor. That means they get the release of all that information that was utilized by any civil review board. They get the release of all of it.
But wouldn't it just be information pertaining to that one complaint, information in the personnel file?
All information relied upon by the civil review board.
See, let me interject here. What happens in these bills, they sound good. It's all the beauty's in the eye of the beholder in this kind of situation. What happens, like what happened in the Silk Plant Forest case, was the review board wanted personal information from the officers because they believed there was something wrong with this investigation that led to the conviction of this individual. So they started summoning records. Well, they couldn't get that, so then they wanted to talk to the officers. Well, the officers are not obligated to talk to a review board that is not properly laid out in any kind of particular process. So the city, not wanting to make the board unhappy and not really wanting to follow their own rules, they escorted these officers in with an internal affairs officer who ordered the officer to talk to the committee because the committee could order the officer to talk. And then you have what is known as a Garrity order, and quite frankly, a bastardization of the Garrity order. It wasn't really done appropriately at all, but that led to the information being released. But the city at the time didn't think they would release it. Well, the head of the and this is something else too, who is going to be on these boards? The head of the Winston-Salem board was a Harvard attorney, Harvard graduate of Harvard Law School. But he was a patents lawyer and he knew nothing about criminal procedure. We found that out when after all of this was done to these officers. How many were there? 13 of them? 7 to 13 officers were involved in this. And I mean, they're being talked about for months. Even the district attorney was thrown in there for good measure. Well, only after a suit was filed and we deposed the gentleman who was the chair, we asked him where he got his knowledge of criminal law and procedures. And he said that he got it from watching Law and Order.
On TV.
And that's, if that doesn't explain the danger of giving important information in the hands of people that really don't know what they're doing. We also, I remind you, we have the North Carolina Justice Standards Training and Training Commission, which is under law, under the purview of the Attorney General, has broad latitude to control this board. That is the licensing board, if you will, of police officers in North Carolina. They can investigate at any time. They can look at information happening, and they can conduct the kinds of investigations in the proper way because they are properly adjudicated to do such things, as opposed to some board you're picking of people that may be well-intentioned, as the harbor attorney, but who obviously did some major damage that resulted in court action. Yes.
I would assume that you've been in communication with the Fayetteville Police Department and let me ask you this, and you say this is to be taken very seriously by this community. Yes. Okay. And that basically it's in a lot of peril with gang activity. This is so serious. Where is the police chief today, and why is it that one city council person is here and a former city councilman? Where are the rest of them if this is so serious?
Well, Bill, I can only answer that philosophically. I mean,
Okay.
It only takes good people to do nothing for bad things to happen. That's, of course, a modification of a very famous quote that I didn't make up. But it's true today as it was when it was first stated. I cannot answer why people do not step up. Now, I will say that...
I would think that the police chief would be here.
Well, I would think that the police chief, I can tell you that I believe the police chief is very much in support of our position and appreciates what we've done. And I'm very confident that he feels that way. I think he has a network around him that doesn't feel that way, and I think that's pretty obvious.
Are you alluding to the city council?
I am. I'm not alluding to them. I'm saying the city council. And other certain staff members in the city.
Certain members of them, not as a body of work.
I think that very well could be, it's assumed by many in the community, that's why he's retired.
Well, yeah, I think there's no misunderstanding. He's leaving because he has tried the best he can to address these problems in a proper way.
John, are you saying that there is an elected city council member, more than one, involved in corruption like this?
No, I'm saying that they have engaged in activity that has been declared unlawful, and they still wanted to seem to do it.
That's corruption.
Well, if it is, then yeah, they're engaged in activity that they either knew or should have known was illegal, and had to be stopped by enjoined by a court order to stop it. And we presume at this point we have gotten no information from certain members of council, not all, that they understand this or that they're going to do anything differently than what they've done in the past. And I think with Officer Ketchum's case, there's been some comments, some positive ones we've heard, even from the mayor. The mayor said something about somebody should be held accountable, but then it got changed, and I will say we're disturbed about public comments that are being made about personnel matters on a matter where this officer's been cleared. Imagine if there wasn't a video. Imagine if we did not have this recorded. What would have happened? What would be happening to Officer Ketchum right now? I've been doing this business so long, I have grown children in it now. And we've come a long way with modern equipment and what we can do. And please understand, we're never saying officers are perfect, always listen to the officer. Officers make mistakes, they're human beings. But when you have this kind of technology that can now show proof positive what's going on, something that the council has fought for and made an expenditure of to spend money to ensure this kind of protection and ability to know the truth. And then you have leaders in our community that are saying, well, they adopted the tape. I mean, when does it end? When are we going to have reasonable dialogue in this? And when you are representing an organization and that's what you come up with? So, in other words, you get to the point where is there anything that is going to satisfy certain individuals other than shutting the police department down? And I don't think the majority of Fayetteville citizens want their police department shut down, but I do believe there is a group, as I will tell the Bill and the rest of you, unnamed at this time, John Doe 1 through whatever, that I think need to be found out through a proper investigation and held accountable to the fullest extent of the law because of what they're involved in, which we believe is trying to actually shut the police department down from doing their job.
And
That group of people, though, are city leaders.
Well,
If I may intercede.
Okay.
we have a situation here where we have a mayor, Mayor Anthony Schiavone, says, on one hand, he says we should hold people accountable for doing the wrong thing. Yet, then is this self-same mayor that is the one that supported and pushed forward Jim Arp's thing about this moratorium, which was determined right off the bat to be illegal and found to be illegal, and is going to continue to be illegal. So, if he's going to hold accountability, he needs to hold himself accountable. He needs to hold Jim Arp accountable. He needs to hold the ones that voted wrongly on that vote that night accountable. He needs to hold Jermore Simmons accountable. How can he say hold people accountable in one breath, then turn around the next breath and say Eddie Ketchum is the one that's unprofessional, and try to cast a bad light onto Eddie Ketchum and try to throw the light away from Jermore Simmons, who's the one that did something wrong?
The mayor did not say that, in defense of the mayor.
What did he not say?
Well, he didn't say that,
He didn't say to hold people accountable?
he can't add it, and he said that he was harsh punishment.
Did he not also say that Eddie Ketchum was somehow unprofessional on radio? I've got the recording.
Yeah, I don't listen to radio.
Well, okay, there you have it. I just made both my points.
Well, and let me, I don't want to be the referee here, but,
When will you file the complaint?
well, let me just say,
Today's Thursday,
I think
so-
that this kind of frustration is exactly why we Fayetteville deserves better in terms of resolving this. And like I said, proper procedures are followed, investigations are made, people are held accountable for what they've done. People understand they can't just go screaming fire and try a movie theater and act like it's protected speech and get rid of the vitriol that's been involved up to now. I think we've got a real shot here of making a proper review. There is a way to bring citizens and police together and do all kinds of great things. Community watch programs and community policing came out of those things. A police department is only as good as the citizens they serve and protect and what those citizens get, and that interaction that we get. So we are losing that dialogue and conversation because of all this other stuff. I'm sorry, Fred.
You said you want to file complaints this week. Today's Thursday, so you're filing them tomorrow?
Well, actually, we wrote that Tuesday, so it'll either be tomorrow or first of next week, thank you. I forgot.
Let me just ask this one
Yes.
question. On this racial profiling, which has been, and I've read where it's polarized the community and so forth, and a lot of people have their different judgments on it, but they recently held a Traffic 101, which was led by Alan Rogers, was part of that. It was good. But here's the thing, in this community, it's so concerned and so polarized. We're going to hold 700 people, and there were probably 80 people there, probably 40 of them were policemen. And, I mean, there was nobody from the community there. What does that say?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't say that the community feels very, very threatened. Do you think they feel threatened? Maybe. The community, the members of the community I talk to are fed up with the allegations where there's no substance. I don't know that they want to get engaged when this kind of cloud is hanging over the city. To me, that is the prevailing theme by most responsible citizens. They just don't, they want to hear something positive and how to move the city forward, and not reiteration of false allegations in which not one case of proven racial profiling has even been actually brought up. And the one time that somebody does say it, he's caught through a video feed that he lied. I mean, I would just presume that wounds the community to the core. And if this kind of activity continues, again, I'd love to have dialogue, meetings, working things out. The only aspect of that I got was today at the General Assembly with legislators who have other big issues to deal with. And these are veteran legislators. They all want to sit down and work this out. And I think this bill actually may be a process by which we will get to the table, because I am confident with everything I've ever done that this bill will not become law unless we are part of the dialogue to fix the problem. We have been assured of that, and I have been assured by people that I have utmost respect. Any other questions? Thank you for all your coming. Thank you for enduring my stuttering.